Welcome everyone, and I'm so happy to have you on the Entrepreneur website and our podcast. And I have a very special guest. We've met a couple of years ago, and we kept in touch from the other side. Anastasis, I'm so happy to have you. How are you?
Hi, Neil. Very nice to see you. I'm fine.
What's the situation over in Athens, Greece at the moment?
Well, we're in lockdown mode. We've been in that since beginning of November. We're hanging on, and we're hoping that the vaccines will solve the problem.
Amazing. Hopefully soon and quickly. So we're filming this. This is like the last, I think, 72 hours of 2020. And before we jump into your predictions for 2021, for all the entrepreneurs listening or watching us now, let's do a quick elevator pitch. Who you are, what you do, what's your business? Are you ready?
Sure. I'm Anastasis Lozos. I run a fourth generation family business. We are importing and distributing domestic appliances, and we also do after-sales service for appliances. We have 30 people. We employ 30 people, and I don't know if you need to know more things about our company.
I'm blown away. What do you mean fourth generation? What were the appliances 4 generations ago? What did they start with?
Okay. It sounds strange because the fourth generation. Well, the company was founded in 1903. The problem is that there were no appliances at the time, so it was a food company. And then in 1936, we decided to store the foodstuff that we were importing to refrigerators that were beginning to show up at the time. And we started importing refrigerators in 1936. Then 1944, the factory that we were preparing foodstuff. It was a packaging factory for packaging some foodstuff. Was destroyed by German bombers. And then the remaining of our warehouse was, let's just say that the food that was in the remaining of our warehouse was eaten by the British forces when they entered Athens to liberate it. So effectively, our first business, we went out of business from the first business, and we were left out with the appliance business. And that's how I ended up in the appliances business.
We've met a few times. I've never had that story. And wait, there's so many questions I have to ask now. So there's within EO, we have 15,000 people. I know in Asia, there's a lot of people who have a second and third generation, right? Yeah. I don't know how many have a fourth generation, which is amazing. And you think they say the second generation improves and the third generation kills it, right? So where do you stand in the fourth?
I think that my motto is to constantly improve and innovate, change or die. I believe that you need to constantly reinvent yourself. So I'm reinventing the business because the business was a traditional wholesale business. It was great for the 20th century, but now things have changed, and we need to be able to accommodate all those changes in our business model.
When you say change and innovate, and a lot of people say adapt or die or stuff like that, which is great as mottos to print and put on the wall, but you do it on a yearly basis, a monthly basis. How does a business like yours keep changing and evolving? So between strategy and tactic, you know?
I believe in, I have a theory that you need to reinvent yourself every 7 years. So every 7 years, there are business cycles that are repeating themselves in every 7 years. So every 7 years, I try to find a new service or a new product that will help me to stay current with the business. And right now we're also trying to digitally transform ourselves. But this is irrespective of the changes we're trying to make on the 7-year cycles.
Interesting. I don't know if you know this. So I'm located in Israel. Is in the Jewish tradition and the way it's always been done is it's a 7-year cycle. When the way they harvest and everything, and on the 7th year they also give it 10% for good luck and everything. So the Jewish concept has always been 7-year when they farmers and everything 7-year cycle. So it's interesting.
Okay, then that's probably no coincidence. I just coined that change by accident.
So I think, first of all, it's amazing how people think about certain stuff, and that's been around for thousands of years, and how it's been structured. And 2020 has definitely been an interesting year, and hopefully this airs with 2021 vaccines. Everyone's happy and everything works out. Your business has endured everything. It's like Second World War, rise of the Nazis, First World War, right at the beginning, different industries, every collapse. How did you handle, I know, the Greek collapse with the currency a couple of years ago? So you've endured everything. Is this easy for you?
No, actually, I'll tell you, my biggest misfortune was when I started, when I was initially involved in the business in 1999, 2000. So in 1999, I started in another company, working in another company, had just been back from my studies from the UK. And then the earthquake hit us. And the earthquake was devastating for our company because our warehouse collapsed. So we lost, and unfortunately that warehouse was not insured for earthquakes, because at the time there was not enough knowledge and there was no need to insure things, because there had been a previous earthquake that was not very significant. The damages were not significant. Anyway, the point was that we lost 90% of our stocks. We lost the warehouse. We had to rebuild the second building that our office was based, and we had to move all our to order new products and to store it in the new warehouse. And at the same time, same year, our the factories, our partners that were importing products from, had a disagreement, and we were left without product for 6 months, which meant that our turnover dropped by half on the same year that the earthquake hit us. And you can imagine the cash flow stresses that we had to endure. For 3 years, at the same time, I had to move my the company offices. Well, part of the offices were set outside in the parking lot in a container that we had to move all the infrastructure, the IT infrastructure, and then the other half of the company had to move in the basement of my house, which I had to do all those changes and all that the movement in 48 hours. So we managed to be up and running in a week's time. We ordered new products. We changed. We managed to survive that hardship. So COVID and the economic crisis, the financial crisis of 2008, and the capital controls of 2015 was a walk in the park for me. So, but having said that,
this is going to be the bite that we cut out, right?
Yes.
This is going to be the one that we're going to promote the show with. 2008,
okay.
2015 have been a walk in the park for me. That's it.
Well, yes, because in the meantime, I forgot to tell you that my father passed away in 2011, and I had to take over the business. So from the moment I entered the business, I've been having difficulties and struggles, but I was always seeing them as a test, or I had a positive attitude, and I was always looking forward to what tomorrow brings.
I think I can definitely attest to all the years I've known you about being very positive, always smiling, always having a very good impact on all our meetings and sessions, wherever we meet, physically or online. So thank you for that. And I wanted to ask you, you feel that sometimes, are you better in the day to day where everything is calm, or once you're with your back to the wall and you're like, let's get it done? Where do you feel more comfortable, more energetic?
I'll tell you, actually, one of my colleagues in the management team told me that. She told me that I'm much better. I perform much better under stress and in difficult situations. So usually, if I'm involved too much in day-to-day stuff, then I get cranky and I'm not in a good mood, and people don't like to bear with me. But when the shit hits the fan, that's when I perform.
So you're the wartime general.
I assume so.
That's and but when was the decision? We talk a lot about entrepreneurship and the concept of EO members who've worked in companies, learned everything about the business, then left, started their own business. And we talk a lot about people who inherited or grew into a business. So you feel that was always part of your process? You went to study in the UK, you were planning on coming back to the business. Have you ever started your own business before that?
I think I'm not sure what I was planning, because I tried to find a job in the UK, but I was too young when I graduated. I was 21 years old. And I hadn't completed my military service, which is obligatory in Greece. Uh, so it's when I came back, I felt that probably my father was preparing me for this role without me knowing it. And that's usually how it happens in family businesses.
You think you started to work straight away. You started to work within the business.
I went to work for a computer peripherals company for 1 year in 1999, and then because of the earthquake, I had to come back. I felt that after a year working in another company, I was working as a product manager. I felt that after a year, I had learned all I needed to learn from that particular role. And I felt that time was pressing me because my father was under a lot of tension, and I felt that I need to help him. So I decided to come back to the business. So it was a decision that came out of necessity. And after being involved in the business, I realized that I didn't like it. And so what I decided to do was to make the changes necessary that would make it interesting for me, so that I would continue to follow it in the future.
So that definitely qualifies, in my opinion, under entrepreneurship, as fixing things. How much do you think that taking the stress is important from in a family business or in general? We always say that the worst thing about being an entrepreneur is being an entrepreneur, right? You start a very good day, then there's a problem, there's an issue, things happen. It's always kind of a uphill, downhill kind of days. So what did you focus on? What did you change that made your business better?
Well, the first part was to be able to communicate with my father, and that was hard on its
A
own.
challenge.
It's a challenge. It's a big challenge, and most family businesses, they struggle during the transitional phase from one generation to the next, because you have uh, to find the fine balance between the experience and the energy of the younger generation. Um, I'm I was not very aggressive in my relationship with my father, so we managed to strike a balance, which was, if being an engineer, I would call it an unbalanced equilibrium position. So things would change from one time to the next. But anyway, that was the first challenge. And the second challenge after that was managing to cope without my father, because that's when I realized how much I needed him and how much not how much I needed him, how much I missed him, and how important those times that we spent together were. Um, and the next challenge then was to be able to convince and to create the trust that my father had instilled, not just upon my employees, but to the banks and to the rest of the market. So it's because in Greece, it's very difficult to trust a 30-year-old young entrepreneur.
That's part of the DNA of the culture, right?
Exactly. That is changing, though. That is. I believe that's rapidly changing in the past 5 years.
Really, what do you think created that change?
I think it was the startup culture and the startup revolution that's taking place. There's a lot of new startup companies, and also part of the fact that the political scene is also changing and moving on to younger generations taking the reins.
Interesting. Do you think that what I think Greece has always been more traditional and also rely heavily on tourism and things like that. Suddenly, the ecosystem is changing, young people coming in, startup concepts. How do you think that impacts? Does that create a situation where things happen quicker? Experience is less important, or maybe it's more? How do you see it in the next 5 years, for example?
I think you need both. You need a mix of experience and dynamism. I think the whole situation is still evolving, so I don't know what the correct balance should be.
It's interesting. And looking at your business and talking the last couple of years, when you look at diversity and you say we always look to innovate, are you always in a growth state of mind? Do you think a business that stays still can survive today?
Well, I used to think that you could enter a niche and just occupy that niche and then survive, but that perception has changed. I believe that you need to grow or die nowadays, because the way that the globalization is developing, I believe that companies need to have a critical volume, a critical size, in order to be sustainable. It's good to occupy niches because these are the ones that can help you, can fix your profitability and can help you be competitive against the larger companies, because there's always be someone that's larger than you are. But you always need to be growing. I think that's necessary, absolutely necessary.
And as part of growth and this whole idea of creating the Europreneur podcast, at what point did you start looking or were you approached about joining EO, the Entrepreneurs Organization? What was the story behind you joining?
Well, actually, initially, like 15 years ago, a friend of mine from university asked me to join the YPO. At the moment I checked the YPO, I realized I was a few million short of the minimum thresholds to join that organization, and also that the fees were a bit high for me. Uh, so I politely declined. And then a few years later, um, a friend of mine, the wife of another university friend, who was a member in both YPO and EO, introduced me to EO. And I realized when I went to the first meeting that half of the people who were there were somehow acquainted to me through friends and other people I knew. So I thought, okay, these people have a similar sort of value set with mine, and I really liked the way the first discussion and the first meeting went. And then I was instantly hooked. So it didn't take long for me to join the organization.
It's interesting that you say you were instantly hooked. I remember when I joined, I didn't get it. Like, I like the people, I like the concept about the forum once a month. The people I met were interesting. The diversity in businesses. I was looking for a place somewhere I can meet people that are sort of like me, but not exactly like me, that I can learn from them, grow, and so on. But I didn't initially really get it. And I think that also created why I started the path of leadership, and you and I work together quite often. But you joined as an EO member when?
That was 2015.
2015. And then you went to the president of Greece. You became the president when?
Well, I was first year, I was moderator, forum chair, moderator, finance chair, and GSEA champion, because that was the year when we started, we launched GSEA awards in Greece. And then second year, I was forum chair and president-elect. And third year, I was president. And one more year, the next year, I decided to take a break. So a friend of mine asked me to become speaker chair for the Unlimited event in Santorini, which is a large regional event, for those who don't know. And another friend approached me to become an accelerator coach, which was a very interesting experience, an amazing experience. And I'm still in contact with my accountability group. And we exchange a lot of business conversation even after I have left the program.
That's amazing. For those of you who don't know, so apart from the fact that we are members of the EO, the Entrepreneurs Organization, we also volunteer in different roles to help the organization. It's a peer-to-peer organization, which means that we take different roles each year or every couple of years, and Forum will be in charge of helping all the forums, all the groups that meet once a month to stay healthy. Moderators are the ones that moderate the specific forums, and there's different variations and ideas but you can do so many different things and meet so many people. And something I remember quite well, and I think that had a profound impact on my life specifically, is the way you and I met. If you remember, a couple of years ago, there was an EO event in Athens, and they decided that all the members that come and join will run the 10K on the day of the marathon. And I remember I got a call. That was my first year, I think, as the member experience director in charge of the marketing. And I got a call from Greece, from the Athens chapter, which I knew no one from that chapter at the time. And they said, we're having a bit of a problem with selling the tickets. Do you remember that? I don't know if you remember that.
Of course I do. Of course I do. I ran the marathon that year. It was the first marathon I ever ran, just because this event was taking place in Athens and there was no one else who would run the marathon, and I wanted to do it.
I remember. So I got a call from the Greek chapter asking me to help them sell tickets for the EO event. I barely knew what that meant. And I said, yeah, sure, I'll help. We ended up selling 100 tickets, I think, or so. And I had to train to run the 10K. And I remember going downstairs here and being unable to run like 400 or 500 meters. And I ended up running, and it was an amazing experience. And I remember meeting you, I think the day before, but the moment I really remember is the day after a couple of hours after we finished running, we were sitting in a restaurant.
Yeah.
And you came after the marathon.
Yes. Okay. Now I don't have that recollection because I was too hungry at the time when I came to the restaurant. But yes, I remember coming into that table with so many people there. Yes, it was amazing.
I remember your smile, and it was a big thing for you to run. Before that, you're out of shape, if I remember correctly.
It was, I only trained for 6 months for this marathon, but I did it very consistently and very thoroughly. And I managed to do it, to complete it in a very good time, actually. It was 4 hours and 11 minutes.
Amazing. And you lost quite a lot of weight before that, if I remember also something.
6 kilos.
Not too bad.
Yeah.
I ran with your
I'm,
6 kilos there. So, but it's one of those things where you remember when you met these people within EO. We ran there, we did this once in a lifetime experience, we did this raft. I had amazing breakfast with some of the people, and I know snowing Vancouver or Toronto or stuff like we collect so many friends along the way, and we also collect so many different memories.
I think there are two things that are important for EO. The first one is you manage to realize, understand, and explore your limits, and you get out of your comfort zone through your involvement. And I've managed to do things that I wouldn't have dared do before joining. And the second one is the opportunity through the path of leadership that you described to break things and to test things that you wouldn't dare do in your business for fear of shutting it down.
Yeah.
So that's and also the forum experience, which is what we call in Greece the board of directors of your life.
So it's
Your
not just
personal
about
board
the
of
business,
directors.
right? It's not just
Sorry?
about running your business. So being in a forum, a big part of what we do, and I think that's part of what I love. I lost weight. I started to exercise. That had an immense impact on my business, but it wasn't necessarily me fixing the business. It was me working
No.
on myself and improving.
It's about becoming a better version of yourself, actually. It's how to improve yourself, and by improving yourself, you improve others who are next to you. That's the idea.
Yeah, and by the way, here's a different question. This year, if I'm not mistaken, we are both on the regional council, so in charge of what's happening or the idea or the strategy for EO in Europe, 23 chapters going for 25. And you're the area director. Could you elaborate on your area and a bit about your position?
Yes, I'm responsible for 6 countries, like Netherlands, the UK, Ireland, Paris, for 6 chapters, which belong to separate countries, Belgium. So we have monthly calls with the presidents. We exchange views and experiences. We share experiences, and I help them throughout their journey as presidents to deliver better value for their chapter.
And I think it's always interesting to me that we volunteer our time, but we then have to sort of quote unquote manage other entrepreneurs. And as entrepreneurs, we sometimes have to work with senior entrepreneurs, right? So people on the regional council, we work with global, we kind of report to someone. It's sometimes not easy to make entrepreneurs volunteer to do things. We have they're not our employees. So it's about
Well,
something.
a lot of us were not used to taking orders because have started directly as entrepreneurs, and I think that's a valuable lesson to be able uh, to to uh, to ask people to follow you without giving orders, to be a leader and not a boss.
Do you see yourself learning from these situations with an EO to things that you can take back to become a better leader and not a better boss?
Oh, well, huge changes. I've changed my, I first of all, I realized that the reason why the limiting factor in the growth of my business was myself. Uh, and that was because I was micromanaging the business. So I fell in love with a system that we use a lot in EO. It's called the Entrepreneurial Organization System, EOS. And I started following it in EO, and through trial and testing, trial and error, I introduced it in my company, and I'm now following it in a full scale. And that helped us to change and grow much faster than before. Uh, so to give you an example, last year, the year before COVID, we grew at a rate of more than 20%. And this year, we will not have a drop in our revenue. Of course, it's not going to be easy to retain growth, but we are stable, and a big part of that is due to all that change in the mentality of the company and doing the correct changes much quicker, and involving more people in the decision process.
It's interesting. Quick question. Do you think your micromanagement style before making the changes, that's part of your character, or is that part of your father's management system?
It's the second. It's part of my father's. It's the way I've seen business conducted in the past, and usually that's what we do. We learn from our past experiences, and that's the good thing with EO, that you have the opportunity to learn from other people's mistakes, and you just see how different management styles are combined, and how all the difficulties are similar between entrepreneurs, irrespective of the size of the companies they are managing.
And also in a global scale, if you look at it, every time I meet, there's this feels like some people would call it a cult, right? You have this, once we shake hands and we're both from EO and it's done, and how can I help you? What do you need? And I think that's a big thing. But you learn that most of us have the same struggles, the same issues. And I have my marketing agency, but I also have bars over here in Tel Aviv. And I meet someone that owns bars in Amsterdam or in New York. The exchange of information, especially during COVID, we exchanged so much information.
During COVID, the first 2 months when nobody knew what was happening, I remember a Zoom call with the members of the Asian region that gave us so many insights on how to deal with the crisis, and that made me adapt so much quicker, and it was very helpful. I don't think I could get that value in any other way.
No, it's amazing. If you look at that one call, I was on that call, and then I went on the calls with Italy at the time, Spain. I interviewed some of the members in Madrid, buying ventilators and stuff like that. And just the sheer value of that call with the Asians, I think that was worth at least a few years of paying our dues.
And actually, and then 2 months later, one of the Middle Eastern chapters called me because their country was entering into capital control. So they asked me to join a call to describe what capital control meant and what it meant for their businesses. And then I realized I could give back some of the value, that because I had to endure the capital controls before joining EO. It was a few months before joining, and it was so hard for me. And so I thought it would be much better to share all that experience with other members, I believe they really they found it useful as well. So it's a way to give back. You get and you give back, and I think the more you give, the more you get. That's why there's this constant involvement, and you don't regret it.
No,
Because in the end, I think we are saving a lot of time through this involvement.
I agree, and I've learned and grown at least, if not more, from the volunteering stuff than the ones I'm supposed to get from the organization. And that's and you know it best. I've been around in the regional council doing various stuff for the last 4 years because I'm excited to see what else I can learn. So it's not just giving back, but it's immediately getting back also the feedback, the information, learning, improving, coming up with various ideas and being able to call someone on the other side of the world and say, hey, I saw you guys are doing this. Can we jump on a call? And I just had that a couple of months ago with people from the US, where we were trying to do something here in the region, and a quick 30-minute call, and I implemented 2 things back into our business. And that was, so I think that's always amazing to me. So let's discuss 2021. What are your predictions? Is this going to be an awesome year? This year is going to suck. What do you think?
Well, it has to be an awesome year because we are scraping the bottom of the barrel. I don't think we can go, it can get any worse than that. So I have to be positive, and I am positive because I have an amazing team in the business. I managed to be very clear with them, and I am optimistic on a personal level, but also on a global level. I believe that well, it's going to be hard for a lot of people, right? Let's not be overly optimistic. But I believe that those who are able to adapt, and if your business has not been severely hit, because some people will have to just make a career change or to decide to that they need to completely change their business model. But those who deal with their problems, I think, will be able to have a great year. I think it's a matter of perception, and usually that's the case. That it's things turn out the way you see them.
I
Do you
love
understand
it.
what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, so if they say it's in the eye of the beholder and you decide to look at it in a positive way and push, then you see the opportunities. So I'll ask you, young male, female in Athens, 2021, finishing college, and it burns, they want to do something. Do you think this will be the good times to start businesses? Would this be a couple of rough? Would you recommend your kids to start a business if they were young, 20s, in their 20s
Well,
now?
my kids are quite young, are too young. They're in primary school, but I think that any time is a good time to start a business, provided you've done your homework and you're entering the right sector. For example, logistics companies and logistics businesses and real estate businesses in Greece are booming right now. Of course, any web-related businesses are booming. On the other hand, there's this, people usually tend to get involved in trendy things, and usually when they decide to get involved, the trend is at the end of the curve, and it's too late to join. So you need to have your eyes open, and provided you find a nice niche to enter, and provided you have the experience, or you have the right people, and you're willing to work hard, there's no bad time to start a business for me.
Yeah, I think, by the way, now is an amazing time to start businesses, especially, let's say, if you have very little experience or you just finished your studies or whatever, but you can do a lot of things as an MVP, the minimum viable product, of testing things. There's a lot of things you can do without coding. You don't necessarily need to raise millions. You don't necessarily need to start something huge tomorrow morning, and maybe find the right partner, right? And start
Well,
working.
there's one more thing that is helping startups and businesses, is the whole ecosystem in Greece. There are a lot of incubators, accelerators. EO has its own accelerator. We have more than 20 members in Athens, in Greece, and there's a lot of free advice out there, and useful advice, not just any kind of advice.
And it's
So,
also, they're not taking any equity.
well, in EO, we're not taking any equity, but and most of those incubators, well, some of them might ask for something in exchange, but I mean, there's something for everyone there.
Yeah, I love the concept of the accelerator. I hope we launch it soon in Israel. It's kind of hard. We have 1,200 different accelerators, hubs, and other stuff here. So launching another one is not easy as we would like. Anastasis, I want to say, like, really a huge thank you for you jumping on a call with me and doing this episode with me. I had an amazing time. Any last words before we finish?
Well, first of all, thank you, Nir. As I told you in the beginning, before we started broadcasting, this is my first podcast, and I really enjoyed it. And it was a very sincere conversation, a very open conversation. I'd like to wish everyone a happy new year, a COVID-free year, and whatever you're doing, enjoy and doing with your passion.
I agree. Guys, thank you so much for being with us in the Europreneur podcast of EO members and EO leaders. Hopefully, you guys are staying safe, building your own business, working hard, and hopefully we'll see you as a member soon. And take care. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
How was it?